Now, finally, we're coming to data visualization, which is probably the most important skill that you will need to acquire as a data scientist to show the patterns in your data, to present your hypothesis, to explore the data. This is what ends up in the publication, to convince reviewers and readers that what you're looking at is real. And um, there are in Python, there are many different packages that provide you with tools to visualize data. We're going to have a look at three of them, but mostly at this one here, Matplotlib. So this is really the foundational library for visualizing data in Python. It's been around for a very long time. It's got an enormous amount of functionality, and it is endlessly configurable, but we will just cover the surface of it to get you ready to produce beautiful graphs quickly. I don't think I need to get into details why data visualization is essential. I think we all know that when we want to generate data for publications, we need to display them in figures. Next week, we're going to cover another library that is built on top of Matplotlib, Seaborn, which helps for more statistical analysis and which generates some really beautiful graphs. So this is another library that I would recommend you. There are hundreds of other packages, and some that for interactive figures, for example. Altair is really useful, but I won't go into this because this would be going down a rabbit hole. Let's stick to Matplotlib for now. Before we start looking at how to use Matplotlib, let's talk a little bit more about thinking about data, because that's really important. There's a few important principles that we need to consider to decide what type of visualization we use and how to design our visualization strategy. So the most important category when you look at your data is you have to ask yourself, are these continuous data or are these discrete data? And continuous data are data that can take any value, so not 1, 2, 3, but any value, any float value. So typically, for example, temperature, size, concentration, expression, whereas discrete values are values that are counted. So for example, if I say the number of trees in a forest, is that continuous or is that discrete? If you think about it, you actually need to count it, so it's a discrete value. But the size of the trees, that can be anything. So this could be any value between, whatever the maximum size of a tree is. This is a continuous data set. So this distinction is sometimes not that clear, but I think this, can I count it, is a very important, easy question to make that distinction. And then among the discrete values, you have quantitative values, like for example, the number of trees or the number of cells, things like that. And then you have discrete qualitative. These are the categorical values that we looked at in the last slides. So the name of cancer types, for example, cancer lineage, cell types, species, things like that. So these also can be displayed in figures, so usually with bar charts and things like that. So that's the next step. So we have to think, what are the types of plots? And there's many different ones. I give you here just example of the most basic one, scatter plots, where each data point is plotted and you can get the idea from the X and Y axis what the data look like. Line plots, which are good for continuous values like temperature over time and things like that. Bar charts, which are very useful to count categorical values, for example. Histograms, we're looking at histograms. They are incredibly useful to give you the range of data. Then the box plots, which give you more statistical information on the median and the quantiles and the outliers, and similar violin plots. Another thing to think about is how to use aesthetics to separate data. The most basic one is the position. So to spread out your data over the XY dimensions. But then if you have different types of data in one plot, you can often separate them by color. So this would be for categorical data, like different groups, so team A and team B You can give them different colors or different shapes. Then for numerical data, again, continuous numerical data, size is often a second value. So I could have different sizes here in my scatter plot. So that would give me another additional information. Line width, the type of line, for example, are good ways, but there's other ways as well. These are just the most basic principle. I just want to get you thinking about this. I would encourage you to explore this more, and there are some really good books. So I have this book here, The Fundamentals of Data Visualization, which is excellent to make you think when you design your figures for your publications, for your thesis. It is really critical to think about how do I really sort of get the most out of my data? How do I display them in the clearest way possible to communicate what the data show? And this is really an art in itself. And I would heavily recommend you to look at that if you want to further go into data science and work as a data scientist. So next up, we're gonna actually start working with the Pandas library and start generating visualizations, and this will follow up in the next session.